Hello everybody, it's Wyvern here with another bit of Total War Warhammer 2 Quick Match gameplay. This time around we are on Raz playing as the Lizardmen against the Dawi, and this is a matchup that it seems to be happen all the time. If I play Lizardmen, I can basically guarantee probably half my games are against Dwarves. Pretty easily, half my games are against Dwarves. And it gets a little frustrating, gets a little annoying. But fortunately I've been having this strat that I've been using a lot and rather successfully against them. This is probably the worst possible map you could get against Dwarves to boot, because it's a very open map, very little room to maneuver, or not very little to maneuver, but very little room to maneuver without taking a massive amount of damage from artillery pieces. So I decided to risk it anyway and run my usual build, and hopefully adjust on the fly. I did bring 5-star warriors with shields for the front line. They are backed by Lord Mazdamundi, who's got both of his nukes. He's got Apotheosis, Curse of the Midnight Wind, as well as Harmonic Convergence, and of course the Sunburst Standard. A single unit of Crocscores to hopefully act as a bit of a breakthrough unit, but in this situation I didn't have too much faith in that because we were going to be charging across open ground, but I did want that option and that threat for my opponent to have to deal with. King Chiefs on the flank. In case you don't know, I always bring these guys against Lizardmen because they do, or against the Dwarves, because they do so well against dwarf slayers. They kill slayers in a single shot, and for 450 gold you can basically put a timer on your opponent's slayers. So they're a very valuable unit in that sense. Finally, on either end, double cold ones. Great unit against the dwarves. Also, if you struggle with this matchup, I definitely would recommend these guys. They've got monstrous weapon strength. A lot of that is AP, and on the charge that you can compensate for their bad melee attack and melee defense, and just really tear through dwarf units. Finally, single unit of horde wants to add some high value or high level elite AP damage. Now for my opponent's line, he did decide to go with Beligar, Iron Hammer, so going for super cheap Lord choice. Personally, I think if you're going for this cheap, and my opponent here, you can see going very cheap with Beligar. He's not even bringing Mighty Oathstone or anything like that. If you're going to go this cheap, I think bring a Dwarf Lord instead, because you can get Immunity to Vigor, and more importantly, you can get, I think it's Star Metal Plate. It's like -9 melee attack around you, which is great against Lizardmen, who do not have good melee attack to begin with. But my opponent going here very cheap here to make sure he gets the widest possible front line. You can see a Runesmith also dirt cheap, not coming in with any fancy buffs or anything. He's just got his Rune of Negation and Rune of Wrath and Ruin. But that did allow my opponent to go very wide. He's got the Grumbling Guard. He's got 3 units of Longbeards with great weapons. He's got 2 Dwarf Warriors here acting as a bit of a support unit. But then Norgrimling's Ironbreakers anchoring the center. Double Rangers, and then double Cannons, as well as Dragonback Slayers and Vanilla Slayers in the back. So a lot of tools to zone me off, and of course he's able to kind of box himself up here and just play defensively and play it safe. And you can see my Crocscores already taking a pounding from that artillery. I'm going to make a little bit of a mistake here. Perhaps you can see there, I'm not entirely sure where they were aiming at. I don't know if they were trying to shoot Mazdamundi or if they were trying to shoot the Crocs, but the Crocs definitely taking a pounding. Nothing much I can do, but I'm going to cast the Banishment here on the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers, looking to get some value, and you can see we're actually going to get a bit of an ideal cast here. My opponent isn't going to move, which is a big mistake. If you're getting bombarded and the Banishment isn't wandering off, move out of the way. But the Banishment actually gets practically a perfect cast, and it just stays on top of these poor guys. And you can see the Norgrimlings losing almost their entire formation in a matter of seconds to a single cast. And then we do follow it up with the Ruination for Cities, which promptly whiffs almost everything. So I guess that's kind of compensation to my opponent, the fact that my Ruination of Cities did almost literally nothing. But the Norgrimling's Ironbreakers are essentially off the field in a blaze of banishing glory. In the meantime, though, this King Chief coming in hot against the Slayers, starting to shoot them down. Already picked off 2 models, as you can see. We'll see if he can pick off another one. You can see there, he did. So, definitely getting some good value. Second King Chief swing in. But unfortunately, because my opponent is kind of bunkering down here, we're going to have a bit of a struggle to bust through with all this cavalry. So we need to get close, we need to engage, we need to start sliding out the front line. You can see the Crocscores there. I hit him with an Apotheosis, so I was just trying to make sure they get into the fight, and it just isn't happening. One of the things with blasting charges, they're not very good against the dinos, and I say this fairly often about high HP, low density infantry units. Explosives just don't work against them. I guess against Skanks it would work, but really against SARS they can kind of shrug off a lot of it. The Crocscores will get in there and actually force the Norgrimlings to rout, but that's about it. At that point, the Crocscores themselves are going to buckle and fall, and under constant fire from the cannons that I still haven't managed to shut down, we're going to lose them. So in the meantime, though, the Slayers here are no longer getting harassed because my opponent is doing a great job zoning me out with these Longbeards. I do force the Cold One Riders, though, to force path past the Slayers, get into the back line. My opponent here trying to sort of defend himself with these Slayers, but I just have so much cavalry. We're whittling these guys down. We've got a Crystal Midnight Wind going down, debuffing this whole pocket. You can see the Stars just plowing through with the Harmonic Convergence, getting on top of these Rangers, beating the snot out of them. Rangers, of course, not really built for that sort of stuff. And in the meantime, unfortunately, the Sking Chief is wasting his ammo on the Longbeards, but definitely still doing quite a bit of damage, and we're going to start chipping away at the Slayers once again in just a little bit. Over here, though, a bit of a misplay. My Cold One Riders getting caught out by the Dragon Slayers in a... Well, I wasn't paying attention. So, you know, it happens. It's not good, though. But we're going to get our Cold One Riders here into the back of the Grumbling Guard, and they are going to do a lot of damage despite a pretty imperfect charge. Because that 44 weapon strength, especially when the Longbeards are losing most of their melee defense, is just going to be monstrous. And yes, there's reinforcements coming in, but they're going to be able to do a lot of work. In the meantime, while these Slayers are very busy slaughtering these Cold One Riders, doing their very best over there, the Horned Ones are just piling past, and of course, Horned Ones are absolute beasts. And let's see what they do to this cannon crew, just sending them flying, sending those Dwarves to their dooms. And this is going to be a complete disaster for the Thor Gunners. Horned Ones, of course, very powerful. My favorite cav aesthetically in this game. Unfortunately, a bit risky because of their tendency to rampage, but despite getting hit by Wrath and Ruin, all that sort of stuff, we're going to keep piling on and start slaughtering this Grumbling Guard. And you can see basically a full rout at this point. Balance of power shifting decisively in my favor. The King Chiefs here chipping away at the Slayers, chipping away units of opportunity sometimes. This guy up to 19 kills, basically all of that against the Dragonback Slayers. You can see there he snipes another one. Another one bites to dust. And another one. So you can just see how much damage this guy's doing. And it adds up, guys. It's one of those things. It might not look that impressive, but over the course of a extended game, you can see these Slayers. They're just dropping one by one, dropping like flies. And it adds up. 24 kills in Dragonback Slayers, or maybe it's not quite 20. Actually, I would be surprised. It probably is. Is a lot. It keeps... It's basically... This guy's already basically paid for himself. Just sniping away the Dragonback Slayers. Which is incredibly valuable. Meantime, this front line is going to start buckling, and of course Dwarves can't run because they're too slow. As the money getting his face pounded, and these Slayers are going to get on top of my Cold Ones. But we've got healthy Sars at this point. We're going to be able to start collapsing. You can see I'm over here. I'm using my Cold One Riders with semi-healthy units to chase off these Norgrimlings. Probably should have stopped at this point. They're on 5 models or 6 models. These guys could have easily been over here. Sars, you know, Sars will crush Slayers. So as long as I get rid of these Longbeards and beat down basically just those infantry options, these Slayers are not going to stand a chance. You can see we're still chipping away at them with our blow darts. 27 kills now. Unfortunately, my opponent, once he closes into the melee, this guy's going to struggle a bit, or start struggling a bit to hit. But you know, he's raking in the kills. 29 now. In the back, Cold One Riders running amok, slaughtering Rangers. I actually sent the Blowpipe Skink Chief to chase them down. We're going to be able to sort of route these guys out. You can see the Dwarf Warriors here on 15 models fighting against 5 Cold Ones. Just looks like such a mismatch, but it's really surprisingly not. The Dwarf Warriors can actually take on these guys, probably, I think, but not with this rear charge coming in. And at this point, for my opponent, it's basically a good game. You can see the last 2 Slayers here. They're going to get dragged down by Sars. Sars aren't good against a lot of things as far as the Dwarf roster goes, but Slayers are one of the units they're very good against because that's almost an optimal unit with fairly low melee defense, no armor. It's just perfect for the Sars with their huge weapon strength. Unfortunately, it would look like we're getting poisoned here by some friendly fire from the Skink, probably. So you can definitely still friendly fire with the Skink Chief. You can see, though, he's up to 34 kills. He's killed about half a unit of Slayers over the course of this game. The last 2 over there, he's obstructed, so he's not able to get shots. That's one of the unfortunate things. Perhaps I should be playing my games a little more patiently. I don't know. Perhaps I need to give it some more practice, but, you know, he's done some work. He's going to be able to rack up 35 kills on Slayers by the end of this. Runesmith over here surrounded and getting beaten down by the Horned Ones. Really not having a good time of it. Horned Ones are a very, very potent unit, as I'm fond of saying. They are really, really nasty. So for my opponent at this point, it's basically a good game. He doesn't really have much left. He's got this handful of Dragonbacks and then these heroes and lords over here. But with a very healthy unit of Sars, with 2 King Chiefs still around and more units of Sars over there, it's really just going to be GG at this point as the whole army shatters to army losses. Definitely, in no small part, thanks to that Norgrimling nuke at the beginning. That was pretty punishing. There's no doubt about it. That was really, really punishing. Just completely annihilated my opponent's Norgrimling. They got 0 kills in that game, which is brutal stuff. That said, going over, I do still think this is a very competitive build. If you're having issues with this matchup, this is and you're wondering what for looking for good builds, in my opinion, this is one of them. This is a great way to go against dwarves. You got to play cautious. If you get a bad map like this one, it can be a bit tough. On most other maps, as long as the map has some room, some cover, some proper safe room to maneuver, you're gonna find yourself in a really good spot, I think, with this army. Especially if your opponent has like blind spots where he can't fire at you with cannons and stuff like that. The cold ones are just so potent. The Skink Chiefs will do a great job slaughtering the Slayers, especially if you can take a bit more time to whittle those Slayers down. That's great. Mazdamundi, those nukes are amazing. 83 kills, probably a lot of that in important Gremlings. Plus he's got those great debuffs, buffs, heals, all that sort of stuff. Saurus, not terrible. They'll outtrade Longbeards. They might even outtrade Longbeards with great weapons. I'm not entirely sure. I've never done a 1v1 matchup with them. And yeah, all in all, I definitely would recommend. For my opponent's build, my main criticism is the lore choice, honestly. Belegar is not necessarily bad in and of himself, but the fact that you bring Belegar and then don't equip him with anything, really, I think he didn't even, yeah, I don't think he had any items. I think it's a bit of a mistake. I think you're better off at that point bringing a Dwarf Lord with Star Metal Plate. Maybe bring Grumbrin. I generally prefer Grumbrin in this matchup for the snare, but I wouldn't really bother with Belegar if you're going to strip him down that much. Otherwise, it's an okay build. Perhaps an extra unit of Slayers in there to get some AP with like giant Slayers. I don't know. It's a little difficult to say. I personally, this isn't necessarily the kind of build I run against. This Lizardmen, usually I run one of those staggered out builds with like miners with the layers of defense, like an onion with miners, and then dwarf warriors and rangers and troll hammers, and finally Slayers and cannons, and it's like 3 or 4 layers of troops you have to fight your way through to to really get anywhere as the lizards. And that's, I think, the most potent build to go with. But regardless, good game to my opponent, Felgen or Fjelfin. I do hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, be sure to leave a like and subscribe below to keep up with additional content. If you have any comments, any criticism, any questions of your own, be sure to post them. I'll do my best to respond as soon as I'm able. As usual, I do appreciate you all for watching, and I will see you all in the next one. Bye for now.